This first excerpt we're going to read is from this guy named Asconius. Okay? He was a historian. He wrote it, I don't know, a little while after it happened. So he was not an eyewitness. So it's like a kind of a secondary source, if you think of it like that. So it was actually a commentary on Cicero's speech. So it was like written after the trial had happened. Does that make sense? So not a contemporaneous account, really a after the fact kind of deal. Okay, so he felt like looking at the transcripts, looking at the evidence, this would give you a more accurate picture than the account of Cicero's that we'll read in the next chapter. Okay, so we start out, and this is a good kind of review for the National Lat exam. Do you see this date right here that kicks it off? Oh, yeah. Okay, so if you remember, the Romans had 3 special days, right? So they had the Calends, which happens on the 1st, right? They had the Ides, which happened on the 13th or the 15th. And they had the Nones, which happened on the 5th or the 7th. Right. So remember, the Romans counted inclusively. So if you think about a calendar, they would count the calends, and they would count the day that they were trying to go to. So. Okay, so you have, this would be the calends of February, right? Okay, this would be the calends of January. Okay, so how do you know whether it would be the 5th or the 7th for the Nones? Based on the day. No. By the month, right? Which were the ones that had it on the 7th? March? June or something? Nope. March, July, October, and May. March, July, October, and May. Is January, March, July, October, May? Negative. Yeah. Negative. So the Nones would be right here, right? And the Ides, which are either on the 13th or the 15th, depending on the month, would be right here. Okay? So if he's looking for 13 days, right, before the calends of February, so we would count this as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13.
Yeah, but this is the 18th.
Okay, this says the 18th, right? Because back in Roman times, they didn't have the 31st and 30th in their calendar. Okay, so actually it would be the 18th. But the big thing for the National Latin exam to remember is the calends are on the 1st, right? The Nones are on the 5th or the 7th, depending on the month. And the Ides are on the 13th or the 15th, depending on the month. Okay?
The 30 and 31st thing that happened for every month? Like they didn't have it on any of them?
Well, just depends on, because look, it says before Caesar's reform of the calendar in 46 BC.
Oh, okay.
They only had 29 days. One of the biggest mistakes you can make is thinking that his name is like Milo Lanuvius because they're right next to each other.
Is it Milo?
No, this is actually the accusative. It's the direct object. Okay, so Milo set out to Lanuvium. Okay, and how do I know it's 2? Do you remember last year when we talked about place clues? Okay, if it's a city, town, small island. Whoops. Remember that?
Yeah.
It doesn't have a preposition. And it's like accusatives going to a place. An ablative is going from a place. What's going in a place? Locative is in. Okay, so Milo set out to Lanuvium. Yeah, it's like the town from which he was. And I would use there right here too. And where he was dictator then. Okay, so right here he tells us something really important. This gives him a reason, right, to be in Lanuvium. Right? He has a reason to be going there. He's not just going there because he thinks it's fun. Or to kill Clodius or something like that.
So he's going there because he was a dictator?
No, he was the dictator.
Yeah.
Okay, so, and he was from there. He was going for the purpose of appointing a priest, right? On the following day. So in other words, he's just going a little bit early. Okay, for a job that was, probably part of his job. Okay, let's look at this next one. Clodius met, I think it's met, and it takes a dative, met him when? Around the 9th hour. Okay, so if you think of it, if they counted from when the sun comes up, that was hour number 1. When was the 9th hour?
3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Uh-huh.
Middle of the afternoon.
Middle of the afternoon, getting on towards dinner time. Okay, so Clodius met him around the 9th hour. A little beyond Boela. Yeah, returning from Aricia. So basically, he was he'd been traveling along the Via Appia and was going back from one town back to Lanuvium. Okay, 4, that's this Alton right here. He had alu cutus est. He had spoken to the councilman of Aricia. Okay, so that gives him what? Gives him some sort of reason to be there, right? Okay, so Clodius, right, was riding on a horse. Okay, then he's kind of setting the scene here. Nearly 30 lightly armed slaves were following him. And this is a PPP describing slaves having been armed with swords. Do you think slaves usually had swords? So that makes him look a little guilty, doesn't it?
Yeah, there's
But he could have needed,
protection.
protection, right? Sure. Okay, so look at this clause right here. Hold on. Look at this clause right here, this purple clause. When you see ut, okay, you usually think the subjunctive, right?
Yeah.
Okay, but if you have ut and your verb is not subjunctive, how do you translate ut? Mm-mm. Close. How about as? Okay. So you would say, like, as was the custom for making a journey at that time. So in other words, everybody traveled lightly armed. Right? So you shouldn't think that's weird.
Even if there's 30 slaves.
Even if it's 30 lightly armed slaves. That was just, how everybody traveled. Okay, so then we got, there were with Clodius. Meanwhile, his three companions. Out of which, I think you got to put the what was there was one Roman horseman, two notable men from the common people. So basically, he was not, marching with Caesar's army down the road, looking to pick a fight, according to Ascanius.
They're just kind of like bodyguards.
Yeah, they're just kind of bodyguards, and like he and his friends, came back from a day, notable men from the plebs. Okay, so Ascanius doesn't make it look like that he was looking for a fight, right? Okay, let's look at Milo. This next one tells us about like what Milo was doing. So Milo was traveling in a rida, everybody's favorite one. What's a rida? In a carriage. Okay, with his wife Fausta, right? Now look, if you're traveling with your wife, are you looking to get in a fight? No.
Actually, is it a verbal fight?
Maybe into a verbal fight, but not like an actual physical fist fight, right?
Wait, they were traveling in a carriage with his wife?
Milo was traveling in a carriage with his wife. Daughter. Okay, so this is ablative. Daughter of the dictator Sulla. Okay, so maybe she was a tough girl because Sulla was a tough guy.
Wait, so not Milo's daughter?
No.
Wait, but why was she there then?
Because she's his wife, Milo's wife.
Milo's wife is the daughter.
Yeah, it says Fausta
Oh.
Sulla was the daughter of Sulla's third wife and was the twin of her brother Faustus, who married a daughter of Pompey the Great.
Wait, so
They named Faustus and Fausta?
they basically had the same name.
I mean, if they were twins, Faustus and Fausta,
So ugly.
that would be like naming you Julius and Julia. What would be wrong with that?
That's
Everything.
weird. I don't like that.
No?
Does anyone have a protractor?
And Familiar, what does that mean?
Fufia.
Intimate, close friend. Close friend, we'll go with close friend.
Fufio.
A close friend, and his close friend, Fufius.
Oh, I like Fufio.
So he's in a carriage with his wife and his BFF.
Wow, that's like the dream.
Okay, a great line, like a battle line, that's the word for battle line. A great battle line of slaves
So it wasn't casual.
were following them. Why do you think it's not casual?
Well, battle line, that's kind of.
I mean, it could just be another word for line, but it says
They're just like lining up.
But like-
march, yeah, line of march or column.
It still sounds like they're getting ready for something.
It does sound like they're getting ready, because look at this next part.
Yes.
Look at this next part. Among whom, okay, among whom
But they
also were
they also
gladiators,
Oh.
from which, like, there were two known ones, Eudamus and Berea. Okay, so, Clodius has 30 lightly armed slaves and his friends, his homeboys, and Milo has his wife, his BFF, and a long line of slaves that had two gladiators in it.
They're gonna win. I hope so.
Okay, so what I think is kind of interesting here is he kind of makes this an impersonal verb. So it's like the gladiators, okay, this is to make this gladiatores. Okay, the gladiators in the back of the line going more slowly. Well, I don't know. They were going slowly because they were in the back, and so they had to wait on everybody else up front of them. It's like in traffic. They began a quarrel with the slaves of Clodius. So really, it just could be, two morons looking for a fight, or PTSD, or something like that.
Is this like told from like the first part? Is that like Clodius is it from his point of view?
No, this is Asconius, like looking at all the documents, like the court testimony and all of that,
But, like-
and like recreating it for us, like the first 48 or something like that.
Yeah.
It's like a
Okay.
reconstruction of what's happening from the documents,
Okay. But like it came from like Clodius. Okay.
from actual sources.
Okay.